On October 29, 2022, Itaewon, one of Seoul's busiest nightlife districts, was buzzing with life. Halloween celebrations had drawn thousands of people to its narrow streets, all eager to revel in the night's excitement. These videos capture the joy and anticipation of that evening. But just hours later, this very place would become the site of one of South Korea's most heartbreaking tragedies. Itaewon is known for its energy and vibrance, especially during festivals. But this night, the sheer number of people, estimated at over 100,000, overwhelmed its narrow alleys and streets. Crowds packed tightly into a sloping alley, unable to move. As pressure built, panic set in. By 10:15 p.m., the crowd had swelled to overwhelming numbers. In one narrow sloping alley, people were pressed so tightly together that movement became impossible. Panic began to ripple through the crowd. As the pressure mounted, people started to fall, one on top of another. This caused a devastating domino effect that trapped those underneath, unable to breathe. Many suffocated in the chaos. By the time authorities arrived, it was pure devastation. First responders worked frantically, trying to resuscitate as many as they could. But despite their efforts, 159 lives were lost, and 196 others were left injured. What began as a celebration became a nightmare. The crowd crush led to unimaginable loss and grief. Most of the victims were young, in their teens or 20s, with dreams and lives ahead of them. For their families and loved ones, this was a pain no one could have anticipated. Diane Schuler was a mother, a wife, and a woman everyone described as responsible and loving. She spent the weekend camping with her family in upstate New York, a seemingly perfect getaway. But just hours after these moments were captured, tragedy struck. One that would leave 8 people dead and countless questions unanswered. Footage from that morning shows Diane stopping at a gas station. Witnesses reported nothing unusual, just a woman on her way home with 5 children, her 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and her 3 young nieces. But something was deeply wrong. As the hours unfolded, Diane would drive nearly 2 miles the wrong way on the Taconic State Parkway, causing one of the deadliest crashes in New York history. Diane's minivan collided head-on with another vehicle, killing herself, her daughter, 3 nieces, and 3 innocent men in the other car. Toxicology reports later revealed Diane's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit, with traces of marijuana in her system. These findings shocked everyone who knew her. The Taconic Parkway crash remains one of the most devastating and controversial tragedies in recent memory, a haunting reminder of how life can change in an instant. On May 24th, 2023, 18-year-old Cameron Robbins from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was celebrating his high school graduation. He joined friends on a sunset cruise in the Bahamas, a trip filled with excitement and joy. But by the end of the night, things took a tragic turn. While on the boat, Cameron was dared to jump into the ocean. Without a life jacket, he leaped into the deep, dark water. What started as a dare quickly became a nightmare.
This kid fucking jumped off! Oh my fucking god! Oh, bye-bye! Oh shit! That's
Hey, grab the buoy!
Hey, the buoy! Yo, this kid's fucking gone, bro.
People on the boat said Cameron seemed confused once he was in the water. He swam further away from the boat instead of toward the safety line thrown to him. Video footage from that night shows something moving in the water near him. Many believe it could have been a shark. The waters around Nassau are known for having a lot of sharks. Sharks are often drawn to big boats because food is thrown overboard. Some think this might explain what happened to Cameron in those final moments. Right after Cameron disappeared, Bahamian authorities and the U.S. Coast Guard started a large search. They spent days looking across thousands of miles of ocean. Sadly, they found no sign of him, and the search was called off on May 27th. Cameron Robbins was a young man with a bright future, and unfortunately to this day nobody really knows for sure what happened to him. The FreeFall ride at Icon Park was one of the tallest drop towers in the world. Riders were taken over 400 feet in the air before plunging straight down at high speed. It was designed to thrill, but on a March night in 2022, it became the site of a devastating tragedy. Tyre Sampson was a 14-year-old boy with big dreams. He loved football and hoped to one day play in the NFL. Visiting Orlando, Florida, with friends and family, Tyre was excited to spend a fun night at Icon Park. But his life was tragically cut short after he boarded the FreeFall ride. As we can see in this video taken right before the ride began, Tyre's safety harness didn't fit properly. Witnesses later reported their concerns, but the ride still proceeded. Tragically, during the descent, Tyre slipped out of his seat and fell to the ground. Investigations later revealed that Tyre's harness had been improperly adjusted, leaving a gap that allowed him to slip through. This preventable mistake exposed significant flaws in ride safety protocols. Tyre's family continues to fight for justice, hoping to hold those responsible accountable and ensure no other family has to endure such a devastating loss. April 16th, 2014, started as a normal day for the passengers of the MV Sewol ferry in South Korea. Among the 476 people on board were 325 students from Daewon High School, excited for their school trip to Jeju Island. But what began as a journey of joy ended in one of South Korea's worst maritime disasters. Not long into the trip, the MV Sewol began to tilt. The crew had overloaded the ferry and improperly secured the cargo, causing it to lose balance. As water rushed in, passengers were told to stay in their cabins. Most of them obeyed, trusting the crew's instructions. In their last moments, many of the students recorded heartbreaking messages on their phones. They spoke to their families, saying goodbye, expressing love, and clinging to hope as the ferry continued to sink. These videos remain haunting evidence of the tragedy and the unimaginable fear they faced. Inside the sinking ferry, desperate students banged on windows, hoping to be rescued. Tragically, many rescue efforts were delayed. Despite cries for help, the authorities failed to act swiftly. The aftermath was devastating. Bodies were retrieved from the water and brought to grieving families for identification. The air was heavy with sorrow as loved ones faced the grim reality of identifying their children, siblings, and friends. In the end, 304 people lost their lives, including 250 students from Daewon High School. Most of them were trapped inside, following orders to stay in their cabins. Their lives were tragically cut short, leaving behind grieving families and a nation in mourning. The sinking of the MV Sewol was not just a maritime disaster. It was a failure of responsibility and humanity.